mamas. Good morning or afternoon. I'm Jovhannah, the spiritual love healer. Today I'm going to be talking about mom guilt because it is real, it is potent, and it is absolutely useless. I hope that you can hear me. I have my fan going because it's hot. It's hot everywhere. I'm sending cool vibes to everyone. But if you are a mother, then I know that you deal with mom guilt. And a friend of mine and myself were talking about this very thing. She's a bit older than me. Her son is an adult, but she still deals with mom guilt. I have two girls. My oldest just went away to college, and that sparked a very emotional, turbulent time for me. Like this past week in general has just been very strange. The energies that I've been navigating and everything that is just going on, it has been very strange and emotional, and where I felt like everything was flowing and I was doing really well, knocking out everything that I set out to work on for myself. It's like this week was just like there was like it's like the wind got knocked out of me. I felt that I didn't have the same motivation, the same energy, the same focus, the same drive, and it just felt like there was, I always say, like when there's periods of expansion and growth for me, it feels like my heart gets cracked open. Because then a flood of emotions comes pouring out, and in the moment, yes, it feels like painful and hard and frustrating and challenging and all of these things, but at the same time I know that there's healing there. So with my daughter going away to college, so I have two girls, 18 and 6. And so I deal with mom guilt a lot. And so when my friend and I were talking about this, I'm like, why? Like, where does this come from? And I wonder, do dads have dad guilt? And I wonder, as a single mom, is the guilt that I feel, is it any stronger or any different than that of another mother or a mom who is not a single mom? But I do know that we all experience mom guilt. And I know there's probably different things that I experience as a single mom over someone else that may not be a single parent, but it's there. And one of the things that I also want to acknowledge is that I think it's also a sign of wanting to be a good mother. It's a sign that you care and you concern about the way that you parent, how you're showing up as a mom, how you are, taking care of your children, that you're experiencing these feelings and these emotions. So if you think about it, if someone's like, well, I don't know, like I don't really give a fuck, like maybe that's not the best way to parent. So if you're experiencing that, then that maybe is a sign that you're reflecting on your thoughts, your actions, your behaviors, and how that may come across, and just taking all of these different things into consideration. It's a lot of thoughts, right? It's a lot of thoughts. But also, and that's not to say like if you don't have mom guilt that you're a bad mom. Maybe you're just very confident in how you parent, which I think is very beautiful. But for many of us, right, there's no guidebook for mothering. We all do it differently. If you're doing it by yourself, that adds additional stressors, concerns, and worries. And maybe it also adds some additional freedoms and securities as well, especially if you are not being exposed to a negative or toxic situation, right? So I did want to honor and acknowledge that, because not every, I won't get into that. That's a separate conversation, but y'all know what I'm saying. But yeah, so mom guilt it's very potent. Like this weekend was hard for me, and so many things came up that I felt I dealt with, that I felt I had, managed and everything. But with my daughter, when she turned 18, like all of these different milestones or markers for me, it's allowing me to close a book in my life that was very painful, that was very traumatic, that was very hard for me to deal with. And I don't want to get into that right now, but just being a young mother when I had my oldest daughter, I was in an abusive relationship, and I left the relationship, and it deeply affected me throughout dealing with the fallout of that, depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, custody issues, trying to navigate and circumvent that. I was failed in a lot of ways by the system, by my family, by my friends. There was just a lot of lack in my life at the time where I really needed the most support, and it was not there, and therefore events unfolded that left me in a bad situation. So when my daughter, as she grew and when she became 18, it was like I can breathe now. Now she's not quote unquote an adult, but legal logistics, things have changed, right? So custody agreements that were created no longer are solidified, right? Because she is of age. Also with her going away to college, again, that's another moment where it's like I can breathe, but it also reminds me of so many opportunities that we did not get to share, so many moments that were missed. And because of how things played out with the things that I experienced while I was pregnant, after giving birth, all of these things, I always questioned my my ability to parent. I was very excited and happy to become a mother, and that was one of the most important things to me, being a really great mother. And for someone who was a young parent, my head and my heart were in the right place. I was absolutely 1,000% focused on my daughter. I was not let me get back to the streets. I was trying to create a home and build a structure for our family so that she could grow up in an amazing environment. But that is not what happened. So I think in some ways, these different changes in her life as she grows up and as she matures, it allows me to heal deeper parts and deeper hurts that that I had experienced and had been chained to just because I am her mother. And so I don't think that these were things that I necessarily allowed myself to talk about, but I think it's important because it affects how I show up. It affects how I feel as a mom. It affects how I parent savvy. And that's one of the things where I felt the biggest pangs, was that I don't want the bad experiences that I had with my first time as a mom to affect my ability to raise savvy and how I show up for her and how I love and provide and care for her. And so yeah, mom guilt is very real. And if you've been through any of the things that I've been through, then whether it's, child loss, whether it's, being in an abusive or a toxic relationship of any kind, dealing with custody issues, dealing with a abusive or narcissistic ex, just dealing, all of that stuff just compiles the feelings that we have, whether it's guilt, whether it's judgment, whether it's shame, whether it's anger, frustration, fear, happiness, whatever it is. I was watching this video of this lady who, her kids went away to stay with their dad for the first time over the summer, and they came back and they were just telling her the little girl's hair was matted, matted up. She was a little white girl, so that their hair is typically long and silky. So for it to be matted literally means nobody combed the hair for weeks. And the woman who is saying this, she's documenting it, right, probably for legal purposes, but it's just you entrust someone to care for your children, that that the other parent, and they're not doing it, and it's you're forced to send your child over there. You're forced to give up your rights. You're forced to try to co-parent with someone who is not interested in the you know, the highest good or the best for the child, and it's horrible to see. And then, you know, you cannot do anything in those circumstances because that is, quote unquote, the law. Like, this is what has to happen because these documents were filed. So now you have to deal with the ramifications. Your children know that they were not taken care of properly when they come back home to you, and you can't, you know, you cannot say this is wrong, like this should not have happened, because you also don't want to, you know, feed that narrative to your children. So it's like you're up, you know, you're against a rock and a hard place. And I don't think that aspect of co-parenting is talked about enough. I was not really able to co-parent. For me, it was more of a tactic to continue abusing me from afar. You know, having your child used as a pawn is never healthy for anyone involved. But yeah, like, mom guilt was on my mind. I've been experiencing so much of it lately, and finding healthy ways to like deal with it and express it. And I think for me, one of the biggest things that I was like, okay, I know what I don't want to experience as a parent, right? I know what I don't want to expose my children to. So it's like, how can I take this energy, these feelings, this guilt, this frustration, and turn it into something that is beneficial, that's uplifting, that is not going to have me feeling like stressed out or thinking of, oh my God, I'm a horrible mom, and, you know, questioning everything that I do. So yeah, that's just kind of where my mind was at this Sunday as I prepare for this week ahead. It's like, and then this weekend, so just because I was not in a good mood, my body was calling for rest and relaxation, so I did allow myself to rest and relax. I started organizing and decluttering because I felt like that was needed as well. And I spent some time just doing what I wanted, making sure that I'm getting prepared for the week ahead as we get back into school, and just really getting clear on how do I want to show up as a mother. What does that look like? What do I need in order to get there, right? And how can I make that happen in a way that feels good and in alignment for me? So for me, I want to parent Savvy, because she's my youngest, she's still home with me, in a way that is aligned with her highest good. I want to be able to make sure that she is able to express herself, that she has access to all of the things that she wants to have access to, whether it's, you know, she's very interested in doing ballet, gymnastics, things like that, right? I want her to be able to access different types of activities and interests. Like, she really loves art, so art lessons, so that whatever talent she has, I want to be able to nurture that talent. I want her to be able to explore herself and know, like, these are the things that I like, and really help her carve out her own path instead of trying to decide what her path is for her and forcing it on her. I also want to make sure that I am infusing her heart and mind with spirituality. And maybe her spiritual path is not going to be the same as mine, but I want her to, I still want her to have that foundation. Meditation is also important, and we do meditate, though not as frequently as I would like. So definitely getting her on a routine that involves meditation, because it's so beneficial for children, especially young children. I think the more that they see it and they get to experience it, the better that they're able to handle their emotions and process. So I think that's very important. Also traveling, that's something that I thought of too. Like, she's always really happy when we are traveling. So I do want to make more time for travel. Next week we were supposed to be going to the beach, but her school started last month because they're on a modified calendar, which kind of took me by surprise, but it is all good. So we're going to make sure that we can make travel part of our life. And yeah, so it's like when we have a focus, right? And we know, and I was just pulling some cards for my Will Manifesting deck by Abiola Abrams. The same way we have goals for, our career, for our health, I have goals for mothering, for parenting, for my family. One of my big goals is to move into a house in the next year, I hope, right? So that's my intention, to become a homeowner. I had a very bad experience with my past landlord, and that was just like, I'm not renting anything again. So I'm getting things in order so that I can become a homeowner and, put Savvy and myself in a house with a beautiful fenced-in backyard and lots of natural lighting. So, and with location, again, travel. So I am not opposed to moving and just relocating and starting somewhere fresh and new. So those are some of the things that come up for me in parenting. I also think it's very important to understand, which I have done, to really understand her soul path, how her energy needs to express itself. One of my dear friends, Christina Mbubiag, who I've worked with in the past with coaching and just intuitive healing, she did an aura reading, which helped me a soul purpose reading to help me understand Savvy's expression and her soul gifts. And that was a very beautiful thing because it helped me to understand her voice, which she's very strong in speaking her voice. Savvy is very loud and expressive, where I'm kind of more so reserved. So it's like a little jarring, but I know it's also important that I do not stifle her voice. And because she is so loud and talking like non-stop, that's what she hears often from other members of the family. Be quiet, you talk too much, you're too loud, lower your voice, and it makes me cringe. I think that's one of the worst things that we can tell children, especially little black girls, to be quiet. I think that is just like, no, we need to learn. I had to relearn, and I'm still learning how to use my voice because, I grew up in the era where children were to be seen and not heard, where if you wanted to say something to a parent or question them or ask or speak, it's considered back talk or it's disrespectful. So, you learn not to speak. And then in the school, again, you're too talkative when you want to participate or when you're talking because that's what kids do. So there's this narrative that is pushed and fed, especially in, little girls, that you talk too much, you're too loud, you're too this and you're too that. And I want to erase that. And I try to get people to understand why they need not to say things like that to her. And of course they don't. So it's just something where I have to reaffirm to her. And that makes it even more important, even if I'm like frustrated or like, oh my gosh, this is too much, that I do not try to silence her, that I do allow her to speak. So I'm going to pull a couple of cards just for some, I guess like a self-care message over mom guilt, and then we'll look at this energy of really transforming or transmuting those feelings, those pangs of guilt into something more productive. So let's see what cards come up. Nope. Okay. This one. Woo! Stop trying to save everyone. One of the questions one of my friends asked me is, we were talking about something else, but it was like, where does that feeling come from? And so when I look at this, stop trying to save everyone, it reminds me to put yourself first. It reminds me that everyone's not going to agree with you as a woman, as a mother, as a human, and that's okay. Like, you need to figure out what's important to you and focus on that. Anything or anyone outside of that is irrelevant. You cannot, you can't save everybody. Like I was just saying, like I try to explain to my family, like, why not to tell Savvy, like, to she's to this or she's to that. They're not going to get it. For me to continue trying to educate or teach people that, it's a waste of my energy. I cannot save them, but I can do my best to save her. And what I love about Savvy is that she's not going to be quiet, and she will tell you that, like, this is how I am, and I want to talk, so I'm going to talk. And I love that. So let's look at how to transmute this energy. So the card on the bottom, or the shadow card, is transitions, which is clear that this energy needs to change. It needs to be shifted. It needs to be moved. So that just reconfirms everything, and I think that's beautiful. And then we have celebrations. I don't think this means to be happy that you have mom guilt, but I think it means to honor and acknowledge it, that you're not holding it in, that you're allowing yourself to express whatever you need to express, that you're allowing yourself to recognize, like, damn, like, I do feel some guilt around this. Like, why is that? It's, and I love this message that life is a celebration of being beautifully and wonderfully made. So again, it kind of reconfirms that you are beautifully and wonderfully made just as you are, okay? So keep that in mind, but also allow yourself to acknowledge what you feel. All too often, we can stuff that stuff down because it is painful. We don't want to deal with it. We don't want to see it. We don't want to acknowledge it. It's not fun, and it doesn't feel good. But when we're able to do that, and do so from a place of compassion, right? We have to be compassionate with ourselves just as much as we are compassionate with other people. We're forgiving of other people. We need to give ourselves that same love, that same kindness, that same energy, that same forgiveness, that same compassion. And then we also have oneness. This is about reconnecting with the divine, right? It's about aligning those energies. So just like I talked about how we can feel the guilt, we can feel the mom guilt, but we don't want to just let it sit there. When we can honor and acknowledge it, and this kind of reminds me also of shadow work, right? It's like becoming one with all of the parts of you. Because as a mother, part of mothering, right, is probably the guilt that you feel around it. For me, there was a lot of judgment and shame because I was a young mother. And then I was a mother without her child. And then I was a single mother, or, you know, having another child. And now I'm a single mother again. And so there was like layers and layers of drama, of judgment, of shame, of just a lot of negative energy that was thrown my way around motherhood. But instead of allowing that to like overshadow me, to control me, like I had to integrate that because that's part of my story. So when we're able to acknowledge, like I just said, when we're able to honor and acknowledge the things that we feel, we're able to find peace and alignment with who we are, with our story. And excuse me, what is that? Like, you can't, I did a video about this a long time ago. Like, I forgot what the exact saying that I said was, but you cannot use the story that made me against me. And that's where this oneness comes in, right? That's where you're like, okay, like, yeah, like, I feel really bad sometimes that I feel like I'm overworking, like I have to work so hard to take care of my daughter. Like, you know, I'm self-employed, I own a business. So I'm always, because I know, like, that's where the money comes in, right? That's where I bring in income to take care of my family. So yes, I am going to continue to work hard so that I can get us to the level where I want us to be. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. So why do I feel guilty about it? Well, I feel guilty because maybe I'm not spending as much time living and playing and being present with Savvy as I possibly can. So what can I do about that? I just said, like, Savvy likes to go on trips. She likes to travel. I want to, be able to put her in different activities so she can have different experiences. And we will like go for walks when it's cool and not so hot outside. So I'm finding ways to be more present and to give her my undivided attention, no devices, no anything. Like, so I know that if she comes to me and she was like, I want to color, or I want to play, or I want to talk, then I stop what I'm doing and I give her my undivided attention. So when I can acknowledge, like, yes, I work a lot, but I also create space for my child, that's alignment. So now I don't feel that guilt and judgment, right? When people are when I feel like I'm working too much. And I've had people say that before. Oh, you're always working all the time. All you do is work, or you don't spend time with Savvy. Well, you are more than welcome to pay my bills, and I will just spend all the time in the world with her. I would love that. I would absolutely love that. So here, go ahead, pay my bills, okay? And then I won't have to work. But until then, shut up. Because I am the sole provider for this child, which means I am going to make sure that I do whatever I need to do to make sure that she is provided for, to make sure that she has clothes to wear, shoes to wear, food to eat, a roof over her head, and some toys to play with, and whatever else I can sprinkle in there too. And when we start to, look at things a little differently, okay, well, why do I feel this way? And what can I do about it? That allows some change, transition. It allows you to come to a new point of respect for yourself, for how you show up as a mother, and a new understanding as well of what you're feeling. Now, I will say this, if you have some very deep-seated things that you're having trouble addressing or confronting or processing, you should get some help with that. Whether it's via therapy or if there's someone trusted that you can talk to, don't go at it alone, okay? One of the things that I do for myself is I do a lot of journaling. I am a very self-aware person, so there are things that I'm able to process. But even still, sometimes I'm like, man, do I need to see a therapist about this? Would that be a good resource for me at this time? Or is there a spiritual healer or coach, or someone that I can work with that can help me process what I'm feeling and move through like this energy? So just be mindful of that. Know that this is all about you coming into alignment, coming into wholeness with yourself. You cannot save everybody. Focus on saving you. Those stories, I don't know if you've had like people, friends, family, whoever in your life that maybe have talked down to you, belittled you, or just didn't support you in the way that you needed at any point in your life, whether it was through childhood, whether it was as a mom, or whatever the case may be. But know that right now, and I say this as I'm saying it to myself, like, my focus is on me and my children. That's really about it. And my business, because that helps me take care of me and my children. It's time to let go of like feeling guilt for being a mother. It's time to allow yourself to embrace all aspects of motherhood, the good, the not so good, and the not so pretty. All of it is just part of this journey and part of this experience. But when we're able to look at it and we're able to face it, that's when we're able to like break through, why do I feel this way? What does this mean for me? How can I move forward from this? Instead of just sitting there feeling bad, wanting to just cry it away, eat it away, sleep it away, whatever. Like, when we're able to deal with it and confront it and talk through it, whether it's with a friend, a coach, somebody, anybody, or if you're just talking to yourself, Sometimes, like, I like to process things out loud, so I'll just turn on my voice recorder and I'll just be like, I'll just start talking, and then I'll play it back, and I'm like, oh wait, like, that's not true, because this, and this. Like, sometimes we let our thoughts, our inner bullies, the committee, like I like to call them, sometimes it's the voices of teachers, parents, or just little parts of ourselves that's like just judging ourselves, the inner bully, the inner critic, where we're just dumping on ourselves, like, you're a bad mom. Like, wait, no, I'm not. I take care of my children every day. I feed them, I bathe them, I clothe them, I love them, I read them books, we go for walks, we go to the park. Like, they're not neglected. I don't have them, tied up in a basement being abused or harmed in any way. Like, so why do I think that I'm a bad parent? Is it because you're judging yourself because you see someone else doing something that maybe you're not able to do, or maybe you feel bad that you're not baking homemade cookies and like cutting the crust off of their sandwich, and you pop some chicken nuggets in the microwave for them? Like, that doesn't make you a bad parent. Okay? So just be mindful of those voices, those thoughts, those feelings, and then question them. Like, why do I think this? Where's this thought coming from? Who told me that shit? Am I telling myself that? Why? Why do I feel like this? Where did this feeling come from? Is this even true? And when you start to do that, you'll be like, wow, like, this really isn't true. Like, I've just been sitting here in this muck for no reason. So I'm sending you an abundance of love, of bliss, of joy, of peace. I hope that you have gained just even a tiny fraction of something from this. And I do hope to share more of my story, especially with my oldest daughter, because that was that is very deep and interesting. And part of why I've always kind of held myself from telling that story was because she was, a child, and I didn't want her hearing certain things. But she is older now, and like, we've talked about this, and I feel like now that I kind of have her blessing, that I feel safer opening up in that space and really talking about what I experienced, because, man, it was crazy. Okay, so before I sign off, there are just a couple things that I want to share. I will be working on next year's spiritual journal, but I think I'm going to rename it, and there will be like a bonus add-on available for single moms. But I think it's just going to be the Spiritual Love Journal, which it's going to be the same format. Do I have it here? I thought I had it with me. Where I have a card, have some spiritual guidance, different spiritual tools you can work with, ways that you can set your goals and intentions, but I'm also going to be adding in some more planning aspects so you can actually use it as like a calendar as well. Yes, and my calendar is open. I am booking for readings and healing sessions, so click the link in my bio if you would like some support, some guidance, some healing, some inner peace. I am here to help. I am sending you an abundance of love and wishing you a beautiful, beautiful week ahead.